Hello everyone, Dr. Ace here, and today we're talking about 9 early signs of dementia that few people know, the kind of subtle, easily overlooked signs that often hide in plain sight. But first, let me introduce you to Sarah and George, two individuals whose journey perfectly illustrates how these early signs can creep in before anyone realizes that something deep is going on. Sarah always had a flair for entertaining. She would host tea parties and bake homemade cookies for her neighbors. Lately though, she has been misplacing ingredients, forgetting scheduled visits, and struggling to keep up with conversations. George is a retired teacher who prided himself on his sharp mind and ability for problem solving. Recently though, he has been feeling a little bit out of sorts, getting lost on familiar roads, mixing up words and withdrawing from activities he once loved. Have you ever worried about slips in memories or noticed a loved one stumbling for words more often? If so, stay tuned. We will be sharing these 9 subtle signs of dementia and shedding light on why it's crucial to recognize them early. Let's explore the stories of Sarah and George as we go along and learn about these signs. Now, dementia is not a single disease, it is a broad term describing a range of conditions that affects the brain. The most common cause here is Alzheimer's disease, but there are others like vascular dementia and dementia with Lewy bodies and frontotemporal dementia. No matter the type though, the hallmark of dementia is a decline in cognitive functions. Things like memory, reasoning, and communication, and even movement. Because it can be so gradual and subtle, dementia's early signs often fly under the radar. People might dismiss them as just normal aging, yet identifying these signs early can make a huge difference in planning, day-to-day management, and overall quality of life. So stick around, because we will be sharing the best ways to catch these early signs of dementia, plus practical tips to manage and even stop their progression. Sign number 1. This is one of the earliest signs that people often notice. It is the trouble remembering recent events. This goes beyond occasionally forgetting where you placed your keys. It's a repeatedly missing appointments, mixing up details of a conversation that happened hours before, or needing constant reminders for daily tasks. Some with early dementia might recall childhood memories vividly, but can't remember what they had for breakfast. Others might repeat the same question multiple times over and over again in a short span. Sarah's experience. Sarah, the ever-gracious host, found herself forgetting the arrival time of her own guests. Friends would knock on her door while she was still in her robe or out running errands. At first, she blamed just getting older, but these lapses kept piling up. One day, she completely forgot she had agreed to bake her famous sugar cookies for a neighbor's birthday, and that's something she used to handle effortlessly. Well, why does this happen? Well, short-term memory relies on a hippocampus to encode new information. Dementia-related changes can disrupt these neural pathways, causing new memories to slip away. Here is a tip. Use memory aids like calendars. Encourage physical exercise, which supports blood flow to the brain and helps maintain short-term recall. Now here's sign number 2, difficulty finding the right words or following conversations. Blanking on a word from time to time is normal. However, in early dementia, word finding difficulty can become very disruptive. People might pause mid-sentence and struggle to continue or substitute completely unrelated words. Example, hand clock instead of watch. Conversations can get derailed because the person can't follow storylines or forgets what was said just a minute ago. Now let's talk about George. George, a retired teacher who once prided himself on his vocabulary, started mixing up his words. He would reach for a term like better while baking out and end up saying that floor liquid thingy. In group conversations, he found himself zoning out, unable to follow his friends' stories. His embarrassment grew to the point that he avoided social gatherings altogether. Why does this happen? Well, language skills involve multiple areas in your brain, including the left temporal and parietal lobes. Aphasia, which often occurs in Alzheimer's or frontotemporal dementia, disrupts these exact regions, making word retrieval a challenge. Here are some tips. First, word association games. Naming objects out loud daily can keep language pathways active. Number 2, check hearing. Hearing loss can worsen communication gaps, so consider evaluating hearing if conversation trouble arises. Sign number 3, changes in mood or behavior, including depression, anxiety, or suspicion. Early dementia can show up as a personality shift or mood swings. Some individuals become more fearful, anxious, or suspicious. Others lose empathy or become socially inappropriate, withdrawing from friends and family. Uncharacteristic depression or apathy, rapid shifts between calm, agitation, sadness, or suspicion. Here is about Sarah's emotional roller coaster. Sarah noticed that she was losing patience with her husband over small things like forgetting to put the dishes away. She would explode in anger, only to break down in tears moments later. Wondering why she felt so out of control. Fearing judgment, she withdrew from friends, blaming her moodiness on stress. Why does this happen? Well, the frontal lobes regulate behavior and emotion. When dementia affects these areas, people may experience inexplicable changes in mood or personality. Here are some tips. Support emotional well-being. Validate feelings and remain calm during outbursts. Possible medications. Antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds can help if the mood changes are severe. Sign number 4. Apathy and loss of initiative. Another telltale sign is apathy, where someone loses interest in previously enjoyed activities. They may stop going out, cancel hobbies, or avoid seeing old friends. They might seem emotionally flat, lacking the spark that they once had. George's sudden withdrawal. George, who used to meet old colleagues for coffee every week, started finding excuses to stay home. He stopped his daily walks and left his crossword puzzles untouched. His friends noticed that he no longer laughed at the jokes that once had him rolling on the floor. Why does this happen? Well, apathy can arise from reduced activity in the frontal cortex, the part of the brain that controls motivation and goal-directed behavior. Here are some tips. Gentle encouragement. Invite the person to engage in small, manageable social activities. Structured routines, predictable schedules can maintain a person's sense of purpose. Sign number 5. Difficulty completing familiar tasks or multi-step processes. Early dementia may manifest through executive function breakdown. Struggling to follow a favorite recipe, forgetting steps in a meal prep, like turning the oven off. Having trouble scheduling or paying bills, or even recipe confusion. Sarah's, once famous for her Sunday casseroles, would leave out the key ingredients or forget to preheat the oven. One morning, she nearly put uncooked chicken back into the fridge, mixing it up with leftovers. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was losing her skills for cooking. Why does it happen? Well, the frontal and parietal lobes oversee planning, sequencing, and attention. Dementia disrupts these areas, making once simple tasks very complicated all of a sudden. Here are some tips. Memory aids and step-by-step checklists can help break down tasks into manageable chunks. Short work sessions, taking breaks to reset, can reduce confusion. Sign number 6. Confusion, disorientation, and losing track of time or place. Everyone occasionally forgets why they entered the room. In dementia, though, confusion can be more frequent and severe. Failing to recognize familiar landmarks, getting lost on well-known roads, mixing up morning and evening, or forgetting the day of the week. George took a drive to the hardware store he had been visiting for years. Then, all of a sudden, he found himself on a completely different highway. Frightened and disoriented, he pulled over to the gas station and called Sarah in panic. This incident shook him deeply, making him realize something serious was at play. Why does this happen? Well, dementia often disrupts the hippocampus and surrounding regions that handle spatial and temporal orientation. Here are some tips. Label rooms or use night lights to reduce nighttime confusion at home. GPS tools, simple tracking devices, or smartphone apps can help if wandering is a concern. Sign number 7. Poor judgment, decision-making, or spatial skills. As dementia progresses, judgment can suffer. Wearing a t-shirt in the snow or a coat in hot weather, making illogical financial decisions like giving large sums of money to strangers. Sarah, normally stylish, Sarah began wearing mismatched clothing, sandals with socks in the winter. She would also splurge on random online purchases she didn't need, once buying 5 identical teapots, just in case. George, once a careful driver, started scraping the curb. His mechanic was puzzled by the sudden rush of minor fender benders. Why does this happen? Well, the parietal and occipital lobes help interpret visual information and coordinate movement. Dementia disrupts these signals, leading to misjudgments of distance and depth. Here are some tips. Occupational therapy can provide targeted exercises to improve spatial awareness. Also, home safety upgrades install handrails, rearrange furniture, and reduce clutter to minimize accidents. Sign number 8. Repetitive behavior and inflexibility about change. Dementia can cause repetitive actions or resistance to changes in the routine, telling the same story over and over again, asking the same question several times in one conversation, becoming upset if a familiar schedule changes. Now, Sarah found herself double and triple checking if she locked the front door, while George kept asking if the mail had arrived yet, even after being told no a few minutes prior. Both felt a growing sense of anxiety when invited to new places or if dinner was served an hour later than usual. Why does this happen? Well, memory gaps lead to genuine confusion. People truly forget they asked the question. Anxiety compounds this, fueling a need for reassurance. Here are some tips. Structured routines, consistent schedules reduce confusion. Sign number 9. Movement and balance problems. Many associate dementia strictly with memory loss, but certainly certain kinds of dementia affect movement and balance early on. A shuffling walk or a changed gait, frequent tripping or losing balance, stiffness in limbs, trouble coordinating hand or arm movements. Dementia with Lewy bodies can mimic Parkinson's disease, causing tremors or stiffness, while vascular dementia might trigger balance issues if blood flow is compromised in regions controlling coordination. George's unsteady gait over time. George began stumbling more often, attributing it to old age. Then Sarah noticed his walk had become somewhat shuffling, and he occasionally trembled while reaching for his coffee cup. This forced both of them to come to terms with the reality that dementia might be behind these physical changes. So why does this happen? Motor control involves the basal ganglia and the cerebellum. Dementia disrupts signal in these areas, leading to impaired coordination and steadiness. Here are some tips. Physical therapy. Targeted exercises help maintain balance and coordination. Home safety modifications, non-slip mats and grab bars can reduce the risk of falls. Now let's connect all of this information. Dementia is more than memory loss. As we see with Sarah and George, these 9 signs can overlap and show in unpredictable ways. Each person can present different blend of these symptoms, none of which appear overnight. There's also a hidden symptom that many people don't associate with dementia, and it is incontinence. Commonly seen in middle to late stages, while it may not appear early, it can happen if the individual forgets the urge to use the bathroom or how to reach it in time. So be aware that incontinence can be a sign of dementia. Just like Sarah and George, anyone can experience these early signs of dementia in different ways. If you found this information helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to stay informed about crucial health topics. Feel free to drop a comment below if you have questions or want to share your experiences related to these subtle signs of dementia. This helps our video engagement a lot. And also, if you're looking to learn more, be sure to check my other video called 8 Popular Remedies That Cause Dementia. You might be surprised at how everyday habits can impact your brain health. This is Dr. Ace signing off, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!